Hello, welcome back to the YouTube channel of Bethel Evangelical Free Church Hanley. I'm Pastor Gervais Charmley. This is another church in Worcestershire. And if you're watching this for the first time and it's the first video of mine you've come across, well, maybe now you know how to pronounce Worcestershire. This is the beautiful church of St Mary Magdalene, Himbleton. It's a Norman building originally. It's been extended and altered in the later medieval period, extended in the 13th century. The chancel was added then, and then other bits and pieces have been added since then. It's notable for a number of things, one of which, and we'll see it, or maybe you can see it just behind me if I move slightly, you'll see it above the east window there, a wall painting, and we'll look at that in more detail a little bit later. Well, let's have a look around. It's a very historic building with various features dating from, best part of 1,000 years of history. So let's have a look. As usual, then we start at the west end, and first of all, that is the south door. That's the main entrance, and you can see that's a nice medieval door. One of the recognition features of medieval doors is this big solid framing at the back. This is a door basically that's going to withstand an awful lot, and that's why quite a number of them survive to this day, because they're very, very solid pieces. So unless perhaps they're made of elm, and elm is a wood that can get eaten away fairly quickly, but if it's oak, then it'll survive a good long time. You can see here we've got a nice simple building, no chancel arch, just that beam, which of course in the Middle Ages would have been the rood beam with a screen underneath. And organ at the back here, I suspect, and this is not labelled, I suspect it's going to be a Nicholson, because most of the organs around here are, because Nicholson was based in Worcester. It's now based in Malvern, I believe, and of course Malvern is in Worcestershire. The font is Norman, and you can see it's square with, you've got here, this is just about to see there, Agnus Dei, the Lamb of God that taketh away the sins of the world. That patch there is to do with, it would have had a hinged lockable cover, because people did strange things, basically. We have here the War Memorial, and we've got a couple of memorials here. You've got, for the Second World War, William H.R. Jenkins, killed in action over Leipzig, Flight Sergeant RAF, and able seaman Albert Richard Carver Stevens, killed in action at Saint Nazaire. That's the Saint Nazaire Raid, and the idea of Saint Nazaire in March 1942 is that there's only one dry dock on the French Atlantic coast that could take the battleship Tirpitz, and that's at Saint Nazaire. And the whole point about the raid is to make sure that that dock is completely unusable, so that the Tirpitz cannot operate from the Atlantic coast. It's completely successful. Lots of people are killed. It's a very, very costly raid, but it did what it was intended to do. Well, here we are. This is the north aisle. You see, it leans very slightly. And in the Middle Ages, there would have been a chapel at the end here. There isn't now. That's a container for altar frontals. Window here. This is obviously late 19th, early 20th century by the look of it. There is some medieval glass here. You'll see some fragments in there. We've got a figure without a head, and we've got a head without a figure. It's all a bit of a jumble, partly because these things were vandalised and partly because they were neglected. Most of the furniture is late 19th, early 20th centuries. Here we are in the chancel, and above the chancel arch we have that wall painting. You can see it here, and it is indeed the royal arms, but it's the royal arms of Queen Elizabeth I. Queen Elizabeth I is the first monarch really whose royal arms can be found in churches, and you can distinguish them because the supporters are yes, there's a lion for England, but then on the other side there is the dragon for Wales, and because the Tudors were very, very much for the dragon, and people sometimes say, well, isn't the red dragon a symbol of Satan? Well, symbols mean things in context, and here it's a symbol of Wales, and it relates to legend often connected with Merlin and with Vortigern, and the legend of two dragons fighting, the white dragon for England and the Saxons, and the red dragon for the British, for the Welsh. So the red dragon as a symbol of Wales goes back well over 1,000 years. We have here a memorial to Sir Douglas Galton of Himbleton Manor. He's buried at Hadsall Churchyard. Hadsall Church is now closed, but this memorial is for this church. And the east window and tablet were erected by his wife Marianne in April 1904. Now the east window is therefore largely of that period, but part of it, it includes some medieval glass. Not an awful lot. You can just see there's the English 3 lions there. You've got Christ in Majesty in the middle. You can see those darker panels. They are medieval. And then here we have St. John, and again it's a early 20th century window. Looking west, so you see the organ there, lovely organ, and the underlying structure of the belfry, and 4 bells. So quite a lot of bells for where there's no tower really. And this is called the Shell Chapel. This is the South Chapel. It's called the Shell Chapel. It was used by the hamlet of Shell. Again, some early 20th century glass. This is early modern glass in there. Then here we have Arthur Fitzgerald Sanders Hill, 6th Baron Sanders of Ombersley. Ombersley is a nearby village, a very, very nice place. And yeah, so that's the Shell Chapel. And there we have the chance of that lovely Tudor or Elizabethan royal arms. So that is the inside here. We can then have a look outside. So here we are outside at Himbleton. It's a bit of a difficult church to get a good view of the south side because there's some whacking great trees here. But you can just see behind me there's that porch, and there's the bottom part of this wooden belfry that is clad with wooden shingles. So we'll have a look around the outside and then, as usual, say some concluding words. So this is the outside. You can see, yes, that is the time. It is just 9 o'clock in the morning here, and when I'm filming this, and you see this nice wooden belfry with at the top, the bells at the top, and then lower down, obviously that's the clock mechanism is. Nice wooden porch, appears to be 14th century, in parts at least, and the lower part has been rebuilt. The windows are a nice mix of dates. Those there would be, what, 14th century. And we'll just have a look inside the porch, because there's the outside of that door rather. You can see again we've got this very solid framing, but here it's a bit more decorative. And there's a Norman arch, partially hidden by the old timbers of the porch. Well-kept graveyard. This has got the outside of the Shell Chapel, and that nice 14th century window there. And then down here, got the chancel. That window of the top part has been renewed in the 19th century. And this is big trees. That's the priest's door. They tend to be fairly narrow because, of course, medieval priests were generally, well, parish priests were generally not that well paid and tended to be rather skinny. You notice this if you see medieval pulpits. A lot of them are very, very narrow. So here's the east end. You can see that triple lance at that typically 13th century type of east window. You can see that's a square-headed window, so that's going to be later, 16th, maybe 17th century. And round on the north side, where sheep may safely graze. On the north side we have the vestry. That's got a solid vestry, a separate structure really, linked by a little passageway to the north aisle. A lovely little, it's not really a tower, but that quite tall and significant belfry. And again, that square-headed window, that's late medieval, early modern, as they say. Very nice. The vestry is Victorian, but there's been very great concern here to have a vestry that, it's one of the problems that you get with some modern buildings. You have this ugly brick thing, or worse, glass and concrete thing, but here it's a nice solid piece of stonework there's at least some effort to match it with the church that it's attached to, so it's not some sort of carbuncle that sits on the side. So that is the outside here at Himbleton. We'll just go on round to get a good view of the West End. So that is something you can see the different stonework of the three parts. The West End of the nave, you've got this very solid dressed stone blocks. Then you've got a more coursed rubble, as the technical term I believe, for the aisle, and then for the vestry. That is Himbleton. So there you have it, the Church of St Mary Magdalene, Himbleton. I'm sorry about the light, it's not much I can do, it's natural light. Beautiful building, as you can see, goes back to the Norman period, and got bits from practically every century since. Well, thank you for watching, and may God bless you and keep you until next time.